everyone. Welcome to Odyssey House Journals, one of the most listened to and watched podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery. I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host is Rachel Santizo. Nice to have you back. We missed you last week, and we have a very special guest as we celebrate, and we're going to wrap up our celebration. We've had 4 podcasts talking about Odyssey House's 50th birthday. We should have had a birthday cake out here, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Matt, he's one of the guys. Matt and Kenny are behind the cameras. Why didn't you bring a birthday cake?
It's a great question.
They're just shaking their heads like you didn't ask for it. Maybe, yeah.
It's true.
So our special guest today, we thought it would be fitting to wrap. We talked to people who were there when Odyssey House started. People who last podcast we had Glenn Lambert, who was around for over 30 years to see Odyssey House grow from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now we have Adam Cohen, our current CEO. How long have you been CEO?
12 years.
12 years.
Fantastic.
And I was thinking as we came into this podcast, and I guess it really makes me old, but you realize that you guys, neither of you, were born when Odyssey House started?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I do now.
Think about that.
Quite a while.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
50 years is a long time for a behavioral health treatment center. I was 11 years old. I started drinking when I was 13, so maybe if I'd have been around in Odyssey's program, maybe that would have helped me way back when.
An adolescent.
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have become a functional alcoholic for decades. And speaking of starting young, Adam, you're literally a child of Odyssey House, if you think about it. So maybe tell us the story about how you got hooked up to Odyssey and then progressed through the ranks and became CEO.
Sure. So I, as a teenager, really struggled with substance use and got involved with the wrong crowd and got involved with the juvenile justice system. So I was really not a very good substance user. As one friend of mine, an older friend of mine, told me when I was 15, it's like, some people can use drugs and they're going to be fine, but you and me, we can't do it. We should, and you need to know that you can't do it. And she was wise in that. I didn't listen to her at the time. So anyway, I came to Odyssey as a 17-year-old and went through the adolescent program in 1999 and graduated. It's my 22nd graduation anniversary a couple weeks ago, actually. So
wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I was talking to some staff who were there when I was in the program.
Do they remember you?
Oh yeah. I was talking to one of the teachers, and she's moved across the country. And anyway, so we were having conversations like, "Can you believe it's been 22 years?" Like, we're just both like, "Oh." So anyway, I graduated the program and I finished high school, and I really never looked back. And it's, to say that Odyssey saved my life is an understatement. Odyssey House made my life, made me who I am, and I'm proud of that. And then it's become my life's passion to work to help people get the gift that I was given. So I've worked at Odyssey for the last 21 years doing just that. And I worked in the adolescent program as a peer support, and then did admissions for a long time, and then did data and IT work, and then became the chief operating officer. And then finally, 12 years ago, the board decided to appoint me as the CEO. And they took a risk on me, and I'm glad to be here, and yeah.
Well, and I wonder back when you came here for the adolescent program, I bet you had no thoughts in your head that, someday I'm going to be CEO of Odyssey House.
If you had asked me before I came into the program, because I came into the program kicking and screaming, as many people do, I wasn't ready to change. So if you had asked me if I was going to be the CEO of Odyssey House before then, I would have laughed and said, "You're crazy."
Maybe in stronger words.
Absolutely stronger words, like, but definitely hysterically laughing. So yeah.
What changed for you?
Yeah, you must have been a tough kid when you got here.
I think working through some of the issues why I was drawn to use was one of the things that, self-discovery about what that was. But I think one of the bigger things, and that's part of Odyssey House, is that you are immersed in a culture that is pro-social. And I liked the people that were above me or that were my peers, and I looked up to them. And so I bought into that this is a better lifestyle. I'm having fun. I like these people. These relationships are meaningful. And so I attached to that group. And really, when I say I never looked back, I never did. I never called any of my old friends. I just moved forward. I went to a different high school after Odyssey, and that was it.
And the whole time you were working at Odyssey and climbing through the ranks, you got your degrees and an MBA, and it must have been pretty stressful doing school and jobs.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's. I mean, being busy was important, certainly early on.
Right.
But I had goals. I wanted to get my degree, and I needed to work during while I was in school and to pay for school and all of that. So it really was a good thing, and it really recharged me. So I could do my homework at night, but I could be working with the kids during the day and really feel good about what I was doing. Yeah.
What there's been a lot of changes in terms of not just Odyssey, but the way the whole treatment industry looks at people dealing with addictions. What are the significant changes you've seen over the years from when you were 17 till now? I mean, there's been a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest changes in the field has been this kind of and really globally, that it's moved from a moral failing disease to, like, it's actually a healthcare disease that is acknowledged by medicine, that this is not just you're making bad choices. And so that was a big change with regard to stigma and how we approached treatment. And Odyssey is unique in that we looked at why people use and that there's mental health conditions and family discord and other things that contribute to somebody's use.
Trauma.
Yeah, trauma, and really addressing that rather than it being a moral failing. Because if we can address why you're drawn, then you will make different choices if you can realize how to cope with it. I think one of the biggest things is the embrace of medication-assisted therapy. That was a fringe, really a fringe treatment modality 20-something years ago, and there was really an encampment on you're either abstinence-based or you're medication-based, and that was wrong. The field was wrong.
And we were abstinence-based for a long, long time.
Yep, we were. And when we embraced medications to treat these individuals, we saw them get better, and they stayed in treatment, and they got better quicker, and you had less dropout rate because people weren't having cravings, and they were able to get the medicine that they needed so that they could engage in treatment and then make the actual change that they needed to do. And it works. It really does work. And I think we can all acknowledge that at this point. But that was a major sea change for treatment in general, and really was a push nationally to accept it. And I'm glad we did.
Yeah. I'd like to know, what do you do for your own recovery? So it's like that saying, keep coming back, and it's like once you went in, you never stop. You continually come back. What do you do for your own recovery? You're very involved in Odyssey House, and you have over 20 years. What is it that you do for yourself, your self-care and your recovery? What are some key components to that you would share with the world, or teenager going into adolescent, or someone newly at any age?
Well, I think the first thing for somebody who's kind of contemplating or early in recovery, it gets easier over time, and
We can all vouch for that.
Right,
each day is easier than the last one, and the more practice you have practicing your recovery, doing the right thing, it's easier to do. It becomes second nature, and so I think from a personal perspective, there's exercise is important. Sometimes I'm better at that than others. I'm trying.
Right.
But that's a really great way to get some endorphins and to feel good about yourself and blow off some steam. I personally like to cook, so that's like something that it's something fun for me to do. It's something that I can feel good about providing, a meal for my family and friends and all that. And so that's fun. And then, I like to travel, and I like to, be outside and do like snowboarding and skiing and stuff like that. So that's important.
He told me that, I can't remember how long ago, about his cooking, and I thought, and it just sort of surprised me that I just didn't think of you as a going home and cooking dinner kind of thing. But and I mean, it relaxes you, or what? Or you're focusing on the meal, or? I hate cooking myself, but
Same here.
I buy a lot of ready-made things. Of course, I live by myself, and I don't have a family, so.
Well, I think for me, there's a couple of things. So one, it is something that I can focus on that gets my brain off of maybe the stresses of work of the day. So I can just really have kind of this demarcation of, okay, well, I'm going to focus on this. I can be engaged in this, and then for like trying out new things and being kind of experimental and that's fun and exciting, and it's a it really is a distraction.
Sure.
Which is, we all need that.
Yeah.
But it's just fun, and it's maybe an hour or two of my night that I can just do that and engage with my children and maybe teach them a little something. So yeah.
And I heard from his wife that he's a pretty good cook. So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, so if
We're alive.
if you're out there watching and you want to hire Adam to come and cook dinner for you, are you available?
Oh, naturally.
Yeah, sure. No.
Clearly,
I think the thing about it is if I screw it up, we can always order a pizza. So like that's always what I think of when I'm doing it. It's like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? We can burn it and do something else.
we clearly should have fired Matt and Kenny and hired you for the birthday cake.
That's
Yeah,
right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly growing. That's that whole thing, progress, not perfection. So we learned our lesson.
You and Rachel, you especially, are in a management position over a huge treatment program, and I've seen all the ups and downs over the last 4 years, and you go through a lot of stress. Okay, why do you continue at your job and seem to enjoy it when you have all this stress that goes on with running a program like Odyssey?
Well, I mean, for me, it's about giving people the opportunity to make change, and so while there is a lot of stress, there's also a lot of good feelings when people make the change and they're doing well, and that in some way I've contributed to that family's healing, or that person becoming who they want to be, and that person being healthy, and that is really, that's important to me, and it's worth the stress.
I've seen you at graduations. Hopefully, we'll have one in person one of these days if COVID ever
That'd be
goes
nice.
away.
That's true.
And really, I see you in terms of pride and just feeling good when you give your graduation speech as sort of a highlight of the year, or however long the graduation class went through. How do you feel when you're up there and you look out and you're talking to people who've actually gotten through our program?
Well, a few emotions. So I will go up there, and I will be petrified because I don't like public speaking. So that's the first feeling that I have. Is like, oh boy, there's a lot of people here. So I'm nervous and I'm anxious and all that. But I think for me, it's I'm proud. I'm proud of the people. I'm proud of the change that they've made, and I'm proud of our staff on how engaged they are and how passionate they are to help people make change. And so it's very much a proud moment for me, and excited for the new individuals and what they're doing, and seeing where they're going to go. And some of them will stay connected to us, and some won't. But they always have this kind of shared history with us, and so I get to see them in the community sometimes, and it's cool. So, yeah.
One of the things I really respect about you is you're always looking for ways for us to grow our program or to try something new. And there really has been massive growth over the last few years. Why is that important to you? To just, you could just stick with, some of the for-profit treatment facilities have 16 beds and they make a lot of money and they say, hey, we're happy with what we're doing. But you're not that kind of person.
Well, so I think everybody deserves a chance to make their lives better. And for many years, even when I was doing admissions almost 20 years ago, I was very troubled by our waiting lists. And for so many years, we had 8, 9, 10 a year long waiting list, and that's terrible. That we're failing people as a society, and so when we talk to policymakers at the legislature and at the local level, and even at the national level, we'd always say, if you fund treatment, we will expand it. And I meant that, and we were pounding that into policymakers for years and years and years, and finally it happened. And so I felt like, for my own integrity, like, we've got to do what we said we were going to do. Like,
I promise.
If you fund people, if you give people access to treatment, we will create the programs so that they can engage. And prior to COVID, it was one of the proudest moments I had, is that we and the county in general, the treatment was on demand. If you wanted to get in, you could call today, and you could get in today. And I never thought I'd see that in my career, and that was one of the proudest moments I personally had. And I know my colleagues in the other programs also feel that same way. And that, it's not just making good on a promise, but the underlying thing of it is that people need help, and that's our job as a community nonprofit behavioral health system. Like, it's our job to meet the community's demand. And yeah, so
At being a CEO, what is the greatest part of that? I know there's probably not one thing, and the most challenging part.
The greatest part is developing great staff is one of the things, and the second is being able to work with a great team to try new things and open new programs and create something that's cool and make change and continue to push us to be better. And that's really, like, that's the coolest part. Like, I get to have a significant role in how we do things and how we change and how we make things better for the community at large. As far as the least favorite part of it. I guess it would be. I'm very much invested in Odyssey, and I'm very much, it's part of me. I feel like it's an extension of me personally. I know many of us feel that way, that we have this kind of like love as though it's our own child or it's
Right.
a family
Oh, yeah.
member, and so that creates stress, and there's a lot of sleepless nights about worrying about what threat or what something's going to be thrown at us. Like COVID, like who would have thought that this garbage would have happened?
Yeah.
And it's been, it's been a very significant challenge, and we're not alone in it, but it's a constant stress, and because I feel so responsible for, our continued success, that is stress. So
And I think the key word for both of what you said was the word family, and that's what it truly feels like. I remember going through the house in 2012, and you being the CEO, and then graduating, and then we became peers, and now we've been a family. And so sitting next to you, and it's like, oh, we're peers, and we're also. It's just so interesting in hearing you. I'm like, oh yeah, and I get to ask you for support and advice, and the greatest part is like the no judgment part of it, just being family. And so that's the word that I hear the strongest throughout all of this, and I like how vulnerable you are. It's like you're the CEO, but you're so vulnerable and like giddy right now, and this is the part that I love the most, is that we get to just be vulnerable and be human beings throughout this whole podcast, and I think that's the incredible part.
Well, for people who don't know, we have a process in our program that we call encounters, and it's sort of holding people accountable within the program when they're going through treatment. But what you probably don't know is that it goes all the way to the top. And so if I didn't like something you did and I felt it was significant, I could encounter you. And without worrying that I'm going to be fired or have my pay cut or anything like that. I mean, how do you feel when you're encountered? I mean,
well, the the first thing is that I'm really happy that somebody that people feel comfortable to use that process, and that they feel comfortable enough to express their feelings to me, and that can be intimidating. I mean,
sure.
and so I'm really happy when people do it. And then the second part is I want to know how I affected somebody, and if I need to make some changes, I can do that, and I can model that behavior for others and say, I'm really sorry I hurt your feelings because I didn't like your shirt.
And you did the other day, and it's really upset. I went home and cried for the whole evening, Adam.
And so I can commit to not talking about your shirt anymore.
That's
even
why I'm
if I
wearing
don't like
this.
it.
What can you say about an
It
Odyssey
looks
shirt?
lovely.
Thank you, sir. We got about 6 minutes left, and one thing I want to look at is the future, and this is really difficult to predict, but you're more of an expert than Rachel or me.
Right.
Where do, like 5, 10, 15 years, where do you see Odyssey, and where do you see the field of treatment of substance use? I mean, like, are we going to come up with some shot for the brain that just instantly takes a substance use disorder away, or where do you see things going?
Boy, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be in business anymore.
I think that's like, so for many of us in the field, like, we'd be pretty excited if we solved the problem and went out of business.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if that is the case and there's a shot, awesome. We'll get jobs somewhere else.
Do you think it'll ever happen?
Well, maybe, but I think that's maybe an awfully simplistic view of the disease, and so there's reasons why people use. Maybe there's some medicine that might be preventative, but I still think that people have mental health conditions that need to be addressed, and sometimes they are left unaddressed, and that's the reason why one of the reasons why people use is to cope with that, to cope with that issue. And,
Sure. And a shot wouldn't take that away. I mean, if you had trauma as a kid, a shot's not going to take away the trauma.
No.
You know.
No, but maybe I would assume in the next 5-10 years there will be advancements in medicine that will be helpful for treatment. Most of the medicine that's used now for substances is focused on opiate use and alcohol use, but there really isn't anything for any of the other substances, and there really needs to be, particularly as we kind of go through the next life cycle of the drug of choice for the community. Meth is becoming much more prevalent, and there isn't a medicine that works like Suboxone or Vivitrol for meth. So I look forward to those advancements. I think that there's going to be better advancements as far as behavioral health treatment, like talk therapy, that we will have some new treatment modalities that we're able to do, and maybe they're more effective, or maybe they're able to do it quicker. But I think the field constantly is evolving, and we always need to be attuned to the newest things that are coming out and evaluating what we should implement and if we should implement certain things, and really leading out with things that are good. But materially, like, do I think will we have like flying cars in 10 years? I have no clue what we're going to be doing.
Right.
That would be awesome, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
it would. So I think probably the most significant thing I heard you say that you've seen over the years is treating substance use as a disease and not a moral failing. And I think Nancy Reagan was probably, she took the worst approach that anybody in the treatment industry could use, and just say no. I mean, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. It's much more complicated than, even like the shot or just say no. I mean, this is complicated. The brain is a complicated organ, and we still have lots of things we don't even understand about the brain, and so just being needing to
Just don't do it.
Randall, don't
Don't do it. Okay.
Well, and being open-minded, right, and evolving as a
Yeah.
team with several opinions on how to move forward, right, as things come up. And I think that's the important part as well.
And the other concept that we haven't mentioned is the fact that in those days, incarceration was the solution to addiction.
The criminality.
And now, I know you served on a lot of commissions and everything that said this isn't the answer.
Right.
I think we're moving in the right direction, that rather than dealing with it as a criminal justice problem, which it still is, and we're still dealing with it that way, but we're moving it toward healthcare, and that's really where we should be.
Right.
That this is a healthcare issue, and it needs to be addressed as such. And so, as Utah has done justice reinvestment, you've seen this kind of acknowledgement. Yes, locking people up because of their healthcare issue is not going to fix their problem, and so we need to engage them in treatment services, and we need to do that in a meaningful way that is science-based and help them make their lives better, so that they're not continuing to use and go back into the jail and so forth. So I think if I can just add one other thing about going back to your last question, I think that as far as the field goes, and certainly us, I think there's going to be more blend of substance use and mental health treatment, and we've done that, and we're doing more blending and offering more services. But I think there's going to be, for many years it was either substance use or mental health, and none the two shall meet. But that's, again, too simplistic of what people, who's showing up to the door and who needs help. And so there's going to be more blending of primary mental health treatment versus primary substance use treatment, and both being equal. So I think that's going to be exciting for the field to continue to professionalize the mental health side of things, and there's a lot of need.
Oh, yeah.
Any
Absolutely.
final thought?
Final thought. This has been exciting and magical, and so I'm excited to be here and to hear how you do it, because I am doing what you have done, and so I'm excited to sit next to you as the example. You've been a huge part in my recovery, and so it's just been an honor to be here. Happy 50 years, and I'm sad about the cake, but I feel like you can still make it up to us. So I look forward to
Cook
it.
us all dinner. I mean,
I know.
heard he's
I'm looking
really
forward
good.
to it because amends is a big part of it, right? Like admitting when you're wrong is a huge part we
You're
didn't touch
absolutely-
on. And so I feel like you can still do that for us. I look forward to it.
And you didn't ask for a raise here.
Oh, that should be in the cake, right? Because there's still surprises. I
no,
figured that's
surprises.
automatic.
There's a present in the cake.
Yeah,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, yeah.
Like,
No,
yeah.
that sounds right.
Thank you. Thank you for all you've done for Odyssey and all you've
Yeah.
done for the community. It's just, I'm sure there are people out there who hate our guts because they left the program and they're still having substance use issues, but there's a whole huge group of people out there. We figured, and it's impossible to come up with a real number, but we figured in the 50 years, we've at least had 150,000 clients.
It's pretty impressive.
I mean, and over the years that you've been here, we're up to what is it?
About 10,000.
10,000 a year. And so if you think about that, 10,000 human beings whose lives have been greatly improved because of Odyssey and partially because of you at the helm. So thank you
I
very much.
had a small part,
You-
but I have great people.
We all have a small part in it, right?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Adam.
thank
Appreciate
Pleasure
it.
to be here. Thank you guys. This was very fun.
Thank you for watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.